Hi everyone. I just decided to tell everyone my story. In my last post, I didn't get to explain my whole entire story of what happened. I found out that we were pregnant February of 2015. In June, we found out we were having a boy. A few weeks later, July 6th, July 5th, I went into labor. I didn't know it. I thought I was having Braxton Hicks. I was being stressed out all day by some family members who were just being really mean and hateful to me. And I just didn't feel good all day. Well, I had called labor and delivery. They said, oh, well, it just sounds like you got Braxton Hicks. Just drink some water and they'll go away. Well, I drank water. Relaxed. They didn't go away. We went fishing. Night fishing, to be exact. About 1:30, I told my husband we had to go home. I wasn't feeling good, and the pain was getting worse. We got home, and I went to go use the restroom. And when I got done peeing and I wiped, there was blood. Not a lot, but like my normal period, just like, So I called the hospital again, spoke to them in labor delivery. They said, oh, it just sounds like you have a UTI. If the bleeding gets worse, the pain gets worse, just come in. Well, I wasn't waiting, and I told my husband I wasn't waiting, that something just didn't feel right. He was still moving, my son was still moving, and he was still active. It's just nothing, I didn't feel right. So we go to the hospital. I explain what's happening. They send me to labor and delivery. Well, they put the stomach straps on me to check my contractions and his heart rate, which he was so active they could not keep the heart rate on the heart monitor on him, so they had to use the handheld one. They found his heartbeat. They had me change into the gown, and that's when we noticed that there was more blood. So when she noticed that my contractions were irregular, she checked me. My bag was fully bulging, and I was fully dilated. They didn't feel any parts, he wasn't hanging out, nothing. So she calls the doctor, tells the doctor what's going on. She comes back, she flips me in the up position with my head back and my feet up, and gave me potassium to stop my contractions. I believe that's what she gave me. To this day, I don't understand why my contractions were stopped when I was told my baby was coming and I was going to have the baby no matter what, and that Lutheran was on their way to transport my baby to their hospital because they have a NICU and they can take care of him and he has a better chance being there. Well, the doctor gets there, he checks me, and he tells me that my uterus is the shape of an hourglass. Or not my uterus, my cervix. I keep saying uterus, my cervix. So, as I'm pushing, my contractions are done. They stopped. And he's still making me push. My son comes out breached, and his head and neck get stuck in my birthing canal. My cervix finally closed all the way, finally. There was no getting him out. The doctor was cutting on my cervix with unsterilized scissors to try to get my cervix to release, and it wouldn't release. I never knew at that time that my son was gone. He didn't tell me. My mother-in-law knew just from watching the nurses write stuff down. My grandma knew because she was recording and she was by the doctor. And the doctor took my husband aside and said, look, she's lost too much blood. If I keep cutting to get the baby out, we're going to lose her as well. The baby's gone now. So my husband had to make that decision to have them take me to surgery to repair my cervix to get the baby out. On the way to the OR room, I could feel my baby coming out, but they told me that he wasn't. We get to the OR room, and he came out. As far as I knew, my baby was still alive. Like, that's what we were waiting on, is him to come out, and I was going to have him. But that wasn't the case. They took him, wrapped him up, let me see him before they put me under to repair my cervix. My nose keeps itching. But my family got to see him. My husband, they thought my husband was going to lose it. Like, he was by himself in a corner. He didn't want to talk to anybody. He didn't want to see anybody. And the nurse took him our son, and he just held our son and didn't move. That was the worst day of my life. Second to having to bury my son. I only got him for 36 hours. And at the end, they just kept pushing me to give him up, and I didn't want to. Like, I didn't care that his body was lifeless. Like, I wanted him with me. Like, I didn't want to get rid of him. The funeral home came and took him. And that night was the worst night I've ever had. They had to sedate me so I could sleep and I would calm down, because I was screaming and crying and I just couldn't sleep. The next day, the doctor comes in and tells me, that I'm going home. I get home and, I just wasn't having a good time. Like, I wanted to be left alone. I didn't feel good about myself. A couple days later, we had to go to the funeral home, and I didn't want to do it. I really didn't. Like, I didn't want to do anything, because I shouldn't have to pick out my son's flowers, or my son's headstone, or, what was going to be put in his obituary. Like, I should not have done that. He was just a baby. He was only 23 weeks and 3 days. Like, there was no reason for me to have to do that. I just kept thinking, why me? Why did I have to go through this? Something that I had wanted forever. Since I was a little girl, that's all I could think about was being a mom. And we tried for so long and finally got our son and got taken away. I wanted to blame God. That was my first reaction, was to blame God. But I know that he would not have put me through something like that. He would not have gave me a blessing and then taken him away at the same time. There's nothing that I could have done personally to have stopped it. The doctor should have done a C-section, and he chose not to. If he would have done that C-section, there was a chance my son could have survived. A very, very high chance. But that doctor was ignorant and didn't. So now I have to live every day without my son, while that doctor gets to live every day with his kids. It's not fair that we all have to live without our children. Like, it's not fair. Like, no parent should have to bury their children before them. Especially little babies who've done nothing wrong in this world, who didn't even get to make it to this world. And it doesn't matter how far you were. It doesn't matter if you were 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 20 weeks, 30 weeks, 40 weeks. Like, it does not matter. Like, that's still your baby. Like, you still have a connection with that baby. And losing it, like, nobody else is going to understand my pain. Nobody else is going to be able to stand your pain. But we have to get through it. We are 1 in 4. 1 in 4 women go through this. And it's sad. I didn't realize how many women go through this. And since I've lost my son, I know of two people that I'm close to went through this. One of my friends was almost as far along as I was, and the other one just had a miscarriage. Like, I did not realize that it was that common. And it doesn't matter how safe you are. You can do everything by the book, and it doesn't matter. You can have a court accident, which it's nobody's fault. It's just a court accident. Your placenta could erupt like mine did, causing me to go into labor. You could get an infection from just eating something. Like, anything can happen, and nobody realizes that. It does not matter. You never have a safe zone being pregnant. Carrying your child there, it's never safe. Just like walking down the street, it's never safe. But I just wanted to get my story out there and to share it with all of you. And so that way it can get to break the silence. Like, that's what my main goal is for these vlogs, is to break the silence. Start talking about your babies. Tell your story to everybody and anybody. Like, I went and got a tattoo on my leg just for my son. Just so if I'm wearing shorts, somebody can say, oh, well, what's that for? And I can talk about him and say his name and feel happy about it. Because I am a mother. My son might not be here with me, but I am a mother. And I want him to be proud of me. So I'm getting up from this depression, and I'm going out, and I'm going to work, and I'm going to lose this weight so he can be proud of me, and I can be proud of myself. And I advise you all to do the same thing too. I know it's hard, and I know it hurts, but we have to come up out of this darkness for our babies so they can be proud of us. So I wish you all the best of luck. And remember, I will be posting weekly about my journey, because I want everybody to follow my journey with me. Like, so everybody understands, like, the weekly and daily things that we all have to go through with losing our child. Instead of buying our children gifts, we buy them flowers for their grave, or buy them new urns to put their ashes in. So, before you think that you're safe because you're farther along, or you think to yourself, oh, that'll never happen to me, think again. Research stillbirth. It happens 1 in 4. 1 in 4 women go through that. But you guys have a great night. And remember to do some research on it, because nobody is ever safe.